long weekend. More like a long wait for the DNVR show.
Holy smokes.
What is up, everyone, and welcome back in to the Toyota Lounge. Very excited to be back with my good friends today. What's your name again?
No clue.
D-Line.
D-Line.
Eric.
A.K.A. Eric. A.K.A. I think the Wolves Twitter agitator.
That's right. Big market D-Line.
Big market D-Line over here.
I'm Brendan Vogt, hanging out in the captain's seat, and then Harrison Wind and Adamata is our way today. Woo. So Andre Simone, GM, multi-sport aficionado.
Yep. Enjoyer, ball knower, yeah.
And just a general fella all around. Andre, thanks for hopping on the show today, buddy.
Thanks for having me on. Some tremendous work these last couple weeks. I'll have to find something else to listen to on the drive home. And just glad to be one of the fellas today. Thanks for having me.
You're always fella adjacent.
That's
you know
so
what I mean?
true.
You're fella-ish.
Yeah.
You're born in the form of fella without always having the gooey interior.
Huh.
Wow.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad we figured that out.
Sure.
And we're, of course, hanging out today in the Toyota Lounge, driven by your front-range
Hell yeah.
Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. Beep, beep. And you guys are chatting in the Toyota chat there. So as your chats are highlighted by super producer Kale,
Yeah, make them good, man.
make them good. 'Cause
Just know
they're,
that Toyota is examining and judging every comment you make. Oh, this one's good. DNVR is a good podcast.
Oh, there
See?
we go. See,
Now
that's great.
That's how you drive
Legendary.
down the Toyota chat in the Toyota Lounge. Good job.
That's a message Toyota can co-sign.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And fellas, I'm interested what messages, what opinions here are shared and co-signed by the three of us.
Let's find out, dude.
Because, well, unfortunately, the playoffs are still going, aren't they? And I don't know how cute,
This is news to me.
how dialed in you guys have been.
I'm dialed in gummies.
But narratives change quickly in the NBA. And the narrative that the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves had duked it out in an early finals, crumbling here, crumbling, as the Dallas Mavericks are having their way in that series, up 3-0 with a chance to close it out. Andre, I'll start with you because I've talked to Eric about this stuff recently this week, but I'm curious how you feel generally about both the Nuggets and the Wolves and the way that season ended, watching the Western Conference Finals unfolding the way they have.
So many feelings. So many feelings. So many things
This is
to
a
get
safe
into.
space that is being watched by a very unsafe space.
Yeah.
First things first. The Wolves' problems in the clutch, closing games, which we saw all regular season, seem to have reappeared, to have reared their old head. Would that be saying that correctly?
Their old head has appeared.
Yeah, reared.
Their old problems have reared their head.
Their
Yes.
ugly head. I like to call them ugly heads.
I'm just wondering, where was that in the 7 games against the Nuggets?
Bro,
I know.
Or was it just that the Nuggets didn't have a single close game? It was blowout city, and that's what got them.
Or the Nuggets just weren't that good in the clutch in the postseason when they got to it.
Well,
against the
that's
Wolves.
for sure.
Or the right answer, the Wolves are designed to beat the Nuggets, and in the in the clutch at the end, the 2-man game wasn't working because Jamal Murray was not being able to get past the point of attack, and then Nikola Jokic was bracketed by minimum 2 7-footers.
It's true.
And the Dallas Mavericks have the absolute antidote to the Minnesota Timberwolves, where they can hit shots in the mid-range where they're completely unguarded, uncovered. Their guard play is just breaking down the point of attack defense for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so after that, it's like Rudy Gobert just being on skates.
Yeah, that's true. And yet there's a lot of stuff Luka's doing, backing guys down the lane and reading Rudy and throwing those lobs at the perfect time that I think Jokic does that. Like, why?
Yeah, I mean, I think the lack of ball handling, they do just match up so differently.
For sure.
On some level, we just have to acknowledge that Dallas is considerably better than we thought as well. As his head coach, Jason Kidd, who's having a great run, despite not the best reputation.
Yeah.
When he took the Dallas job as a head coach, and it's working out for him. The other thing is, as good as Denver didn't look in the clutch when we expected them to, that's how good Dallas looks right now. Like, they have that clutch time and inevitability. I know our guy Harrison Wind tweeted that last night. And to me, the team in the moment that seems best in the clutch Like that was the basis for me falling back on picking Denver over and over and over
Yep,
again. And they
100%.
looked good in the clutch again this regular season. It did not materialize in the playoffs.
I mean, it just did, but not against the Bulls.
Not in round
It did
two,
every
for
game
sure.
against the Lakers.
Yeah.
But it does have me wondering, right? Is that a product of just the fatigue? I kind of hate saying that over and over again. Jamal just not having it, Jamal being injured. Or is clutch time stuff a bit more random? And some analytic people are definitely, I think, have that perspective.
Yeah.
That it's not, you're not locked into great clutch time play just because you've exhibited it in the past. So, but to me, like, that's the biggest thing is like, there's this clutch time, almost playoff experience kind of swagger that Dallas is bringing.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was so sure that for whatever Denver didn't bring to the table, they would have those things in spades and in abundance. And they just didn't.
I mean, they're just carving up the Wolves in one-on-one situations at the end of games. And I think the last two postseasons between Denver's run, this run from the Mavs, I would argue even the run from the Heat last time, those are all teams that are executing really well at the end of the games. The Celtics have kind of played with their food. These playoffs haven't looked great, but they are coming through in the clutch.
I know, that's kind of ironically, it's the only time they've looked good in the postseason is in the clutch. So I guess I don't necessarily have a conclusion, but I definitely am sort of back at re-examining clutch time, like what goes into it. I know it's as important as ever.
Yeah.
But is it, like how repeatable is it? How random is it? And I don't know, how translatable is it from the regular season to the postseason?
For the Denver Nuggets, it has been exquisitely repeatable because,
Yes,
it's Jokic and Jamal. It's not like a grand thing that the whole team gets in on. It's everybody gets out of the way. They do the two-man game. It works every time, but it didn't against Minnesota because the way that they were able to make Jokic look merely superhuman as opposed to look like a deity. And they did this last year too. Like the worst series that Jokic was against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Like, they just have the way that, and then Jamal, when it came down to the ultimate clutch time, this last game 7, Jamal was gassed. So was Jokic. They didn't have anything left, and it's literally that's their entire plan. It's just the two-man game, and it's worked every single time. And to me, it's like they didn't have like run out of gas. They didn't have an actual gas tank that ran out of gas, and they were just like on E. Michael Malone decided to play them the entire game. That one game that never happened any other time. The entire season, the entire playoffs. It's like if you're training to run the 800 and then suddenly they're like, oh, why don't you just run 2 miles? You're like, I can do it, but like I'm not.
I was pacing myself for
I don't
an
have
800 though.
I don't have the kick down the stretch. Like just the way that he managed that last game. And you're right, Andre, most of those games it wasn't clutch time. They failed in clutch in game 1. And then they just failed. Total system fail. Yeah, that like knocked us
Game
all
1
down.
was shocking.
And I mean, ultimately, to me, it's just the Murray part of it that was missing. Because as much as Jokic at times didn't necessarily look like a world beater compared to like maybe the game before or whatever, because game 5 he had it. You watching Dallas, it's like, okay, Luka has this moment, and now it's Kyrie's moment, and now it's Kyrie's turn, and Murray just didn't have that. Now, is that inconsistency? Is that just the injury? These are questions that are suddenly at the forefront that'll probably be answered in the following season, right? And the onus is on Jamal to show us that it was the ladder,
man.
that it was on the ladder. But
And I mean, don't the Wolves look a little fatigued to you in this series?
They do.
And that has such a trickle down. It's not just your stars and Anthony Edwards. Looks like garbage. Cat wilting like a flower, right? Like this stuff that I could have maybe seen going into the Wolves series with the Nuggets, I'm kind of seeing bear fruit now. But the other thing is the role players. Like the Wolves role players look so good, especially on the road. Like they stepped up in a major way, and the Nuggets role players didn't, which is surprising because the Nuggets role players to me had a little more juice. And I'm seeing the same with the Mavs. Like the Mavs role players, those guys around Kyrie and Luka are playing amazing.
They're so confident right
now.
Dude,
Lively goes out. They stepped up in a major way. Daniel Gafford's playing out of his mind. All these wide open threes that guys like KCP and Mike couldn't hit.
That's it, right?
Dylan Jones are, like everything's fallen for the Mavs. They're playing with this confidence that I saw in the Wolves last series, that I saw in the Nuggets last postseason. Like there's just that playoff aura and everything's clicking for the Mavs. They're peaking at the right time.
They are.
And it kind of feels like the Nuggets peaked after the All-Star break and the Wolves peaked in round 2. And I don't know how it happened that the Mavs got to this point and they're peaking so perfectly. I have some thoughts, like Jason Kidd, his substitution pattern. I forget if it was game 3 or game 2, but Kyrie's getting some rest within the last 3 minutes of the game.
Yep.
Could you imagine Jamal getting some rest at that point in the game, or Michael Malone like deviating from his substitution patterns in a big game like that?
I mean, he did, but in the wrong way.
Right, in the wrong direction.
He didn't substitute anybody in that.
In an off-season theme, not to take you too off topic here, Vogt, that I will be thinking a lot with the Mavs is some murmurs that were made, but about how they went about their trade deadline was they actually gave Luka some input. Luka said things like, they finally gave me a backup center.
Yeah.
Like that's something he's requested.
God
and
damn it.
how huge has that been, man?
I don't want to talk about
Daniel
backup
Gafford is the swing trade of the deadline. It's a backup center. It's not some massive
They got 2
move.
guys.
And PJ Washington as well.
And PJ Washington, but giving Luka some input and how much. Like, I think you guys have done a good job of maybe talking a little bit of Yoke should have more input. Yoke should have more say. This is the time to find his voice this offseason. And it's interesting seeing the Mavs in a season where Luka's saying he had more of a say, he had more of a voice, turning the corner this way in the postseason.
Yeah. Actually, I always have wondered how much Jokic actually does have.
Dude, I do too. I know.
Versus, like, Luka might come out and give you a quote. Like,
Yes.
they finally got
Yes.
me a backup center. I don't think Jokic would ever say it that way, even if that's precisely what went on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I do think he maybe sometimes has a little more influence there than it seems like.
Yeah.
But that's
We
a good
know he
point
had a
as well.
say in the exodus of Bones.
I think Jokic has a say in just about all of it.
They definitely talked to him about everything, for sure. It's just, I don't like, Jokic is such that I don't think he would ever point at a guy and be like, get him for me, get me this. It's sort of just like, how are we feeling? Like, what do you want? And, I don't know. Jokic doesn't seem like the type that dictates what he's after. He sort of like takes the challenge and goes in with what he has. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's the sense I get.
Yeah, there's something to that. I'm also glad that Andre brought that point up because I do want to move away from just lamenting the Nuggets shortcomings over and over again. And part of
dude, we got a whole offseason of that, baby.
Into
whole life of that, dude. We've been talking about the Anthony Carter inbounds play my entire life.
But I did want to transition to more of a Mavs conversation, which is where you brought us, because I think of all the outcomes we sort of prepared ourselves for and discussed, and we like to openly wear our agendas on our sleeves on this show. I love that about us. We hadn't spent a lot of time considering what would happen if the Mavs won a title.
Mavericks agenda corner?
But first, I want to start with the point you just brought up, which is that we've talked a lot about how hard it is to win a title at the trade deadline, particularly the bigger splashes. For example, the Suns getting KD.
Yeah.
We were hopeful that if the Nuggets had stayed healthy the AG year, they could have done it with that kind of a move.
Right.
But the Mavs are on the precipice of doing just that with 2 role player trades. And that is really fascinating. And there was a time when there were so many super teams and big threes, it kind of felt like moves like that never actually moved the needle.
Yes.
But with where the West is competitively and the parity, everyone hates that word, I'm sorry. It's like there kind of is something to, like, maybe the margins are smaller than they used to be. Maybe the margins are just going and getting those guys at the deadline. And the Mavs have certainly done a lot right this year, and it's all blooming at the right time.
Well, don't forget also the Pacers got Pascal Siakam, and it propelled them to the
great point
Eastern Conference Finals. It's always funny because the buyout market guys are just like laugh up, like there's no effect. Like that's where everybody's like, oh, we got to get this guy in the buyout. But the trade deadline is meaningful. Like you can like really see where your team is
Looks
at.
that way right now.
You can see where your team is at, and you can like either bolster. And yes, like you said, like that should have been the Aaron Gordon trade the year before. It took a year to materialize because Jamal Murray got hurt. Stop me if you heard that sentence before. But it's like we have to look at the idea that, you know, there's like like when you start evaluating a GM, there's like different forms of GM that you can like really lock in on, and like different, like Tim Connolly is an excellent draft. Like he's a ball knower, like hooper identifier, talent pick out GM, but he's not a good like on the phones GM. Like there's on the phone, like Danny Ainge was like on the phones GM where he would like figure out, he would make
there are different skill
Daryl
sets here.
Morey,
Yeah.
like
Totally
there's like on the phone GMs, and we don't know where Calvin falls on this yet. Like, he definitely kind of sat on his hands this time around, and we were all screaming, but it's clear through the interview he gave to Kevin O'Connor and through just other things,
preseason
like,
comments and
is
stuff,
that he has like this, he believes in his large format, like his large form plan, his long-term view.
And he wasn't going to balk at
And he
first sign of...
And there was no reason to, because the Nuggets were cruising. There was no reason to think that they would have this like collapse in round two. But like now you're like, oh man, all right, well, we're not infallible. We're not inevitable.
Yeah.
Like the Nuggets actually have some holes wherever that you got to identify them. But now we're going to find out a lot about Calvin Booth. Like what kind of GM is he? Is he, because like he's shown us in the early part of his tenure that he loves young guy draft picks. He's interested in getting the sleepers of the draft and like, you know, Peyton Watson, like making moves. But now we're going to see if he's able to like maneuver within the other GMs.
And Andre, we might see kind of who, I mean, ideally they come together, but I don't want to say who relents first, but who has more influence on who with Malone and Booth here in terms of like convincing the other one that, or maybe it's a better perspective is just a marriage of their two philosophies, but
Moch v. Booth, let's go.
like,
But you are going to see a little bit who has to, you know, compromise their strategy, their team building philosophy a little earlier than maybe anticipated.
because Malone even said in that press conference with Booth sitting 3 feet away from him.
Yeah, he mentioned the
The
trade
Mavericks
deadline.
made some moves at the deadline.
Totally,
I think we know where Malone falls on that.
Yeah.
How would you summarize, you think, Malone's philosophy as it pertains to team building as opposed to Calvin Booth? Like, to me, it seems like Malone
Short-term,
wants...
long-term.
Yeah, Malone wants vets, right? And Calvin wants young guys. And they need to find where those two... I mean, theoretically, like this next year, if the young guys that have been selected can be vetty enough, like you should find a little bit of a Venn diagram there.
Right. And
We'll
eventually
see,
the
though.
core ages into your vets,
Yes.
hopefully,
Yep.
ideally.
100%.
I think maybe that's where Jokic can grow as a leader. Jamal can grow a little bit, kind of become the guy that hates losing the most. A la Jeff Green kind of set that tone. But
it's parity margins are going to be conversations that come up all offseason. And it's not just the Nuggets goal. Because, I mean, what is Sam Presti in like a front office like OKC who took the Mavs to what, 6 games?
should they just have made the move this year? Which
How
a lot
many
of people were
assets do
screaming
you
the whole
have,
time.
right?
Yeah.
Like, and we wanted to play it out. Well, in retrospect, maybe this was the year to kind of use some of those assets, push your chips to the middle of the table, and try to take this title, you know? Because it's that kind of year, man. There's going to be 8 teams who are doing daily podcasts like this and are like, man, if just
It was right
this
there.
and that.
It was right there.
It's so true. And this is the first postseason in the golden era where the Nuggets are looking to have to
1000%.
improve themselves.
Right.
Like they weren't looking as they're like, we don't need to improve ourselves. We need to just sort of like hold serve.
They went
now
backwards for the first time.
Right. And now they're like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, they did and they didn't. They got more win total. They just went backwards. They didn't get as far in the playoffs.
They got younger, but
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. It's going to be a dilly of a pickle, isn't that, boys?
And again, like,
Can't wait.
again,
Stay tuned.
all the sliding doors moments, man, you know, like this is, all these conversations are totally rational and make total sense. And at the end of the day, too, like, didn't they just blow a big lead? Come
Yes,
on.
they did. They were up 20 in the third. They were up 20 in the third. I can't get over this.
Fellas, we got to hit a break when we come back.
Let's do
When
it.
we come back, I want to kind of have the Luka conversation that we may have to buckle down for here. And then we will have a top 5, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of flesh this one out together.
All right.
The best players left in the playoffs.
Oh my gosh.
What about the best leads to have? 20 in the third.
I would have taken
number
that.
5. Number what?
At least number
In a
3.
game 7 at home?
Game 7 at home, 20 in the third. I'll take that. Number 3 on the list.
Yeah, find me a pillow to scream in.
In the meantime, jacked up to tell you guys about Westera Credit
Let's go.
Union, founded in 1934 here in Colorado with
What?
9 locations in the metro area. They're all about helping members financially prosper. Education is their thing. They were started by a group of 8 school teachers, so helping others is in their DNA. And as a member, you come to see that in every interaction. It's all about the local communities with these guys. Isn't that right, Westera Credit Union member?
It's actually kind of crazy.
Andre?
Me and the wifey, when we moved in together.
Was that in 1934?
Many years ago, close to 34, we went with Westera, and they've been amazing. They really, they're local. They really want to help you. Any issue we've ever had, I can get a person on the phone immediately, and they're super helpful. We did a loan to help us get through, some early times, young couple stuff.
Sure.
They've been incredible. Cannot recommend them more. Our guy, star of the Buff Show, Jake Schwanitz, moved to town, reached out like, hey, man, would you have any banks you suggest? Told him about Westera. He's been happily banking with them since he moved out here like 2 years ago. So there you go. Could not suggest them more.
If you like earning money by doing the things you're already doing with your checking account, just visit westeracu.com/smartmoney. That's westeracu.com/smartmoney for more details. Membership eligibility required, insured by the NCUA. Restrictions and conditions do apply.
Hell yeah.
And you can still have skin in the game these playoffs, even if your favorite team is not still in the game. With Bet365, where it's never ordinary, all types of ways to play. They don't believe in ordinary. They think every sport, every moment should be epic. Bet365, it can be. Right now, new customers can choose between 2 offers when they open an account at Bet365. Use the code DNVR365 to sign up, deposit $10 and choose between either a bet and get offer where you place a bet of $5 or more and get $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer by placing a bet up to $1,000. And if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a matched refund.
Bet on the Celtics.
In bonus bets. I actually do that as emotional insurance.
I know we did.
Yeah.
I witnessed that live when we were
That's terrible.
when we were all explaining to you that your every counter agenda you put in place is about to be torn down by violently, like the movie Twisters.
When they were down 15 to the Pacers, I was like, or whatever it was, I was like, yeah, I'm betting on the Celtics.
Yeah,
like, I
because
either
you were
make
like,
money
the
or I feel
Celtics are
great.
definitely going to win this.
Yeah, and if they don't, it feels
Great
like
call.
I paid for them to lose, and that's
Right.
worth it. You know what I'm saying? Lots of ways to play with Bet365. You have to be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And we're back.
Whoa,
so back,
With
baby.
so much to talk about. One thing we haven't really talked about, fellas.
EuroLeague Finals, Facu losing and blowing an 11-point
No, we
first
talked about
quarter
that.
lead.
We
Juancho
talked about
Gomez
that.
winning?
No, we talked about all that stuff.
Isn't that magical?
No,
Talked
I
about
think,
Mario
I think
Hezonja.
one thing we didn't, we
Super
talked about
Mario.
all the stuff that Jokic had to gain this postseason. Wasn't really framed with what he had to lose. And depending on who you ask, one could argue that if Luka finishes this run,
Yeah.
in the fluid sense of the conversation, I think folks are going to start telling you Luka's the best player in the world.
We heard this about Anthony Edwards.
Supremacy over the Adriatic is at stake, huh?
So knowing this, how comfortable are you with a Mavs title as opposed to, I don't know, let's say a Celtics title? Like, can we live with the Mavs winning for you guys with your own agendas? Is this
easy.
palatable? Is this disastrous? I want to know how you feel.
I'll sleep very soundly if the Mavericks win the title. It's like the only palatable way that this ends is that because Luka is a guy. I was certain Luka was going to get the MVP this year. I bet on it. Like, I just feel like there is a big desire for Luka to get awards beyond. I mean, he's been the leading scorer. He was this year. He may have been last year. I don't know. But he's like always there. He's been getting better and better and better. And it seemed like actually Luka was about to fall into that terrible slide where you get like the Embiid world where you get awards but don't get anywhere, and then everybody starts to clown you.
And then all of a sudden,
Then it all changes. Listen, like, Luka could easily be bestowed the best player in the world award, but then the next season starts, and then you can't defend yourself when you're not there.
Right.
So Jokic, that door is completely wide open because of the way that the Nuggets went out, unfortunately. But I don't mind it. Like, it's not like, even if he like holds that, like, I like Luka.
There's also something about I didn't realize I was so invested in this. It was mostly a Jokic thing, but half Serbian, still a little bit of the global game and the league maybe not looking like everyone thought it would forever. That is sort of not lost here. Mm-hmm. I'm not super married to that, but as far as silver linings,
you're invested in the Celtics not winning that you can't even answer this question.
Brandon will take any Celtics not winning scenario.
This is true. But I think someone in the chat just said I would be happy for Luka. I think I would too. I would too. And I don't even think I considered that. Like, of all the remaining options, that the Mavs winning, kind of cool. Not the worst thing.
Totally cool. And it's so weird. This is life post-title as a Nuggets fan.
Yep.
Because pre-title, we couldn't win, but at least it's not a dynasty. It's someone who's gets to win it again or for the first time.
Sure.
There was a real joy when, like, Nowitzki's Mavs won the title, or when the Pistons were able to upset the Lakers from winning 4 in a row, or Kawhi's Raptors won it. Like, I would get invested in these teams because it gave me hope that one day the stars could align for this to happen to us.
Right, that's
really
true.
But now I'm a selfish, front-running NBA fan.
Rings culture over here.
I'm right. I'm everything I hate. So it's really just what's worse for me, the Celtics winning or the Mavs winning. It's probably worse if the Celtics win. I think that's more of Celtics are coming, Tatum and Brown. It's a younger core than the Nuggets. They have more resources.
Feels like
because
a restoration of the old NBA in some ways that we resented.
Right, and there's more like, to get to their level, we need to chase more.
Yeah, it's true. Even though in truth, as I take a step back, like, different jerseys, pretty likable Celtics team.
Totally.
Well built. They haven't done anything wrong.
Dude, the worst part about the Celtics is the Nuggets would ruin the Celtics.
They don't represent anything wrong.
That's this matchups thing, right?
Yes, it's all matchups.
These matchups were ideal for the Nuggets. Just like these matchups would have been ideal for the Avs. I hate it so much. I do not know what to do with my life. I'm so dialed in on this 24 NBA draft. I'm like an expert. We could go live, do a 3-hour stream.
It's the worst draft in like 10 years, dude.
I know, and yet I'm dialed, Eric. I've never been more dialed. I'm reading oral histories on the 94 Nuggets. I do not know what to do with myself anymore.
It's really true. I'm like, what do I do with my hands? I was so excited to come to work today because I was like, I know that. I know what that is.
I invited Andre to come see Furiosa. Said no.
Yeah, my daughter had literally just got home and is hugging me on the couch saying, "Daddy, I missed you so much." And Eric is telling me, "Just come out, don't be lame."
Yeah, and then he's listening to an oral history from the Nuggets. I mean, which is it?
Right. That's what the conundrum I find myself in on the couch, though, is similar to the conundrum we will find ourselves on these chairs if the Mavs win a title. Is like, we're happy, better outcome than Wolves or Celtics winning. And yet that regret, that the Mavs winning officially makes this we should have won that title.
See, and the other thing, like
20 years from now, we will look back, even if Jokic has won 5, and we'll say it should have been 6.
I know, but
do you remember Game 7, 20-point lead, third quarter?
Thanks for this,
You're right.
No, I'm just saying, like, that is what this is lining up to be.
Well, and I feel like unless they win next year, and then we can gloss over. If we have to, like, I think that if we hit a point where people describe the Nuggets as a dynasty, still completely on the table, by the way, completely on the table. This is exactly what the Spurs did. They never won 2 in a row. If the Nuggets can start winning them every other year, listen.
Their window's not closed.
The window is far from closed.
Got to keep KCP.
Wide open.
Have to keep KCP.
But the reason, the other reason why it's like not at all unpalatable to think that Luka could win is that Luka and Jokic are such good friends that Luka has never been a dick to us.
This is true.
Also, could it push Jokic more motivation without us being slighted? And the other thing is their big two, older than our big two.
I know.
Kyrie's 32. Like the Nuggets core, there's only one guy over 30, and it's KCP. And
we would
can
have
handle
beat them.
that.
We would have beat them.
We can handle that.
God, I hate living in this place.
It's the worst, dude.
The conversation I was going to have is, do you guys think it's fair? The best in the world conversation.
Yeah.
I think probably people have different versions of how fluid that should be year to year.
Yeah.
Is it like 3-year chunks? Is it fair? Like if Luka
fluid
goes
combo.
on this run and he's just destroys this Wolves team that the Nuggets couldn't beat and they win, I mean, is that fair in your mind that people are going to start calling Luka the best player in the world?
If he goes on this run, I think
so.
that's
Of course.
absolutely fair.
I think so. And then it's just now go take it back.
That's
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
just go take it back.
That's what I mean.
Exactly.
Like, Jokic is going to lose that title to whoever player du jour is. Like, it's either going to be Jason Tatum, if your nightmare is fully realized. If it could either be Jaylen Brown, it could be Anthony Edwards, it could be Luka Doncic, it could be Kyrie Irving. All of them have it in front of them because everybody lives day to day,
Right.
breath by breath.
Right.
And the worst, people say that in like you want to live in the present, but the worst part is that the NBA lives in the present in the worst possible way. They won't ever acknowledge things that have happened before, unless it had to do with Kobe or Shaq.
But Luka's by far the most palatable of those combos.
Easily.
Like if the Celtics win and someone starts saying Tatum's the best in the world,
I know
to
it'll
me,
be the most disgusting thing
that's
in the world.
disgusting. You
Yeah.
don't know ball if you think that. Anthony Edwards, to a lesser extent, I kind of still feel that way.
Sort of a ballless
He
take, dude.
hasn't earned it. Luka, I'm just like, hey man, I'm watching the playoffs too. Like to me, this past week, I kind of did look like the best basketball player in the world. I'm not going to argue you that hard on it.
I kind of agree. I agree. Or at least, like it's just fair. I like the perspective of like, now go get it back. Now go
Absolutely.
get it back.
Totally.
Alrighty. Before we hit our second break, you just mentioned a bunch of talented players with a lot of outcomes alive for them. And I thought it'd be fun for today's Bet 365 top 5
of ways to torture
where it's never
ourselves.
ordinary.
Today's
The best players left in the playoffs, and I wanted to do this one live together. I thought it would
Love
make
it.
for a
Let's
better
do it live.
conversation. Any objections to Luka at 1?
No, but how much
Sounds
of it
correct.
did you think it'd be good content / you just didn't fill it out in time?
I would say it's 60-40. I would say it's 60-40.
Okay.
No, I saw Vogt. He was ready, pre-prepared. This was a conscious decision.
choice.
Describe what that looks like. Pre-prepared.
Like Jokic or Caitlin Clark, who I heard say this on record.
Sure.
I see the game 2 steps ahead.
Sure.
And I could see as Vogt was suggesting this, what he was really suggesting was, let's figure out how low we can place Tatum on this list live. That'll
right.
be a funner exit. That'll
correct.
be a more entertaining bit. This isn't about a top 5.
But also, we always like tweet out top 5s, and it's usually just one person's top 5.
Yep.
And then that person gets dunked on, and then the other guys are like, well, I didn't say that.
Oh, man.
So let's make one together.
Not collaborative. So
Luka
true.
number 1, easy, right?
Yes.
So we're gonna go start at 1. And
We can go wherever you want. We just gotta. I just think it's
what
really.
level of no pre-planning did this go to?
I thought Luka at 1 was the one we wouldn't disagree with, so let's just put him in.
I think we're going to have to go 2 through 5, Big
I think so.
Eric.
Okay,
here on
number
this
2.
one.
Number 2.
So,
Still
okay.
left in the playoffs.
Number
Now-
2, and how do we do this?
Based purely on the playoffs, or is this a career achievement?
Let's find out
If I was
together.
starting a team tomorrow, we want to do in the playoffs because that's what's fun, more
It's kind of the same
divisive.
thing.
Well, would you go Kyrie, Derek White, or do you just go Tatum because he's the best, quote unquote, best player? You could also go Anthony Edwards, Eric, who technically still in the playoffs.
10 days ago, right? We are including the Wolves, by the way.
Yeah.
They're not out yet. 10
And
days
would
ago, I would have put
technically
it
have
too,
been
I think.
number 1 probably 10 days ago.
10,
yes.
maybe, yeah. But he hasn't looked great in this series.
No, he looks terrible.
Is that
in
too
fact.
reactionary? No, for this like this. Could Kyrie be number 2?
He could be number 2.
He's so clutch. He kind of deserves it in some ways.
This is big recency bias energy, but I kind of think it's
yeah.
Kyrie, dude.
Maybe we should just do like as they're playing right now, as opposed to career.
Yeah. Kyrie's been magical.
Lock him in. Kyrie, number 2, dude.
You know, I hate to say
Lock
it.
him in.
I hate to say it because the other guy,
Let's go.
I had there, Jaylen Brown, is kind of
Jaylen Brown's been outstanding.
And-
he has
and
been their best player.
Tatum hasn't.
Oh boy. Okay, so
You could make a Derek White argument as well.
Oh, he's coming in at
if
some
you
point.
only
Smokes.
listened to Vote on the podcast, then that's how you took in that series.
holy smokes. Wow, this is a lot to think about. So
Are
we've
we
got two
making a
Mavs up
gaffe
top.
by excluding Daniel Gafford? He's been incredible.
Are
as
we
well.
being too lively
Pun
by
intended.
Nice.
excluding
Hell yeah.
by excluding Derek White?
Oh boy.
Chad, obviously, I want to know what you think on this one.
Our Western bias is glorious on this. I
Yeah,
love
dude.
it.
This is crazy. The team that's already in the finals has no representation in the top two.
I kind of would say it's Jaylen Brown at 3, right?
Jay Brown?
JB?
All right, brown it up. Yes?
No, this is not just trolling,
Downtown
Chad.
Browntown?
Browntown. Yeah, dude. Browntown in paint Browntown green, folks.
I really think we should just make this a how they're playing right now list,
Yeah.
and I think this is right.
We would have also accepted downtown if you wanted to type that out.
Do we then? Okay, so then probably
How
the
far do
two
we
players,
take this?
the
Tatum
two
should be
players,
on it, right?
the two players I feel like that are left that we have to consider are Baby Jordan,
Hell yeah.
Harold Miner, of course. That's
Hell
what I mean
yeah.
by that. No,
The legend.
and
What's crazy is the
Tatum,
Wolves, you can't even nominate anyone else.
Tatum and Edwards, right?
Should we just put Anthony Edwards at 4 here?
Yes.
Edwards, Tatum, Gafford, Derek
thing
White,
is,
I
Edwards
think
is-
all deserve.
Been so bad this series. Like, how does it all? What do his stats look like at this point?
Tatum?
Is this right?
He's actually averaging 26 points.
Dude, is Jaylen Brown the only
Crazy
player that's
enough.
not beloved enough to have a nickname?
This is so tough. This is so tough because
Everyone else has a one-word nickname. Jaylen Brown
Yeah,
requires
this-
both names.
This is right.
you think this is right?
This is correct.
If I just put Jalen or Brown, nobody.
No, I know. I'm not putting this
I
on
would
you. I'm
have
saying
fun.
the world has not embraced Jaylen Brown enough to give him a lovable nickname.
I would have fun arguing Derek White or Gafford, but I just don't think there's the juice to make that argument over an Ant or a Tatum.
Like, I don't actually think Jaylen Brown's a better player, but he's certainly playing better right now.
Harrison Wind
Who's this?
checks in. ECF MVP Jaylen Brown.
He's actually been so good.
I
Yeah,
know.
he's been amazing.
Yeah, there's really just no way we can present this list that it won't upset people. So let's just live with it as it looks.
Oh,
yeah.
I think
this
we
is a
set
terrible.
out to upset Celtics
This is a terrible
fans
list
and
that
Tatum
will-
fans specifically.
We'll lose minimum 30 followers. How many will we
Yeah.
lose?
No, our numbers in New England might go down, and that's okay with us. That's okay.
What about
with,
Derek White at 5? Morgan Jones says Kyrie is not 2. Maybe Jalen should be 2 and Kyrie
Wait,
3.
who says it? Morgan Jones. Let's see. All right, Morgan. We need to
I
see
don't
a
know,
little
the way-
bit more of your resume to understand
Kyrie's
if
played Morgan. The way he's closing those games, I kind of think he's 2.
what are we supposed to do?
Tatum is
we
2?
we can.
Tracy, I don't know, Tracy. He isn't playing very well.
Tatum is not 2, dude. Unless you mean number 2, as in.
So,
No.
what's
Again,
interesting
if
is
we're going whole career, it's probably Tatum, but we're talking about right now.
now wait, if you're going whole career, like player status, he
Yeah,
would
Kyrie's
be more.
probably 1, dude.
He would be more in play to be number 2. He's definitively not number 1. Luka's definitively number 1, no matter how you grade it. Are we sure though that Tatum would rank ahead of Ant? I don't think so.
Yeah, like career-wise.
We're not sure of anything. We're doing this live.
I think I would take Ant, like if you're doing the who would you build a franchise with, I'd take Ant ahead of Tatum. I think most would.
oh, man.
I mean,
Career achievement, it's kind of hollow. I mean, it's really who's the best player right now is the career achievement. It's like objective player rank. Where do they fall in the overall, NBA ranks? I think Ant's ahead of Tatum in that one too. So
I think
no
we just-
matter how you splice it, Tatum's no better than 3, regardless of how we choose to rank this.
Listen, we got to live with our list here. It's
Is that correct?
It's a
It's
a
not
list that
science.
is.
It's not a science.
It's
It's
a
not
list
science.
that is.
Win says Kyrie
steeped-
at 2 is insane.
We don't
Whoa.
care.
Win, Win?
come
Who's your
here.
number
Yeah,
2?
come- yeah,
I
come
want
who's
to know.
number 2?
Yeah, come. He's
I
going to
wanna
say
know.
Jaylen Brown.
It's very easy
Daniel
to rip apart a
Gafford?
list once it's made.
Yeah, dude. This list is steeped in recency bias, and we're not shying away from it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We don't care.
Right.
Here's what I think.
Derek White, who's number 2? then?
Derek White, I do feel like is a tough omission here.
Carl Anthony Towns.
Honestly,
Excuse me,
Siakam
Karl
had played
Towns.
so well, but he's out of the playoffs, and he didn't contest that JB corner 3 well enough in game 1, so he's out.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
All right.
I think we nailed it, guys. Good on us. Look, Tatum, the entire playoffs, not looking too great. Just not. It's just not.
He's been fine.
Right.
He's
The
been
fine
oh,
doesn't
man.
get you in our vaunted top.
Now that I
guys.
see this again, I'm pretty uncomfortable with it.
I don't
but
like it at all, actually. I really want to change it.
I don't,
really,
but I don't know where to change
well.
it. Where are you changing it?
Then I guess what you guys are saying is I steered this list heavily because I love every single one of these rankings. Which, frankly, when lists come out at this company and I'm the one who feels like that and no one else does, probably means I had too much say.
Yeah.
This was our top 25 when I had Todd Helton 12th and people online got mad at me. I realized, I had too much say in this one. Not enough pushback came my way.
And Tatum is having a much better second series than Ant.
Yeah, no, and when I look at his stats, objectively as good or slightly better than Jaylen Brown in almost every metric. 44% from the field, though, not great, you guys.
Dude, I freaking hate this list and
That's
have no
really
changes. I don't know what to do.
I think we should
I can't
flip,
square the
I
two.
think we
Like
should
I'm
flip
like
Tatum and Ant.
I'm like,
Tatum's percentages actually
you think Tatum should be 4 and
that would
Ant should
be
be
a
5?
good correction. Does it change your mind though if I told you Tatum for the playoffs averaging 44% from the field, 29% from 3, when Ant is averaging more points, 48% from the field, 38% from the 3.
And Tatum gets to play in the East.
Yeah. So no, actually Ant objectively better even with this Mavs series.
oh my God.
Okay, Mike Weisberg,
So-
you seem like a Celtics fan or a Tatum fan, and you tell me,
Thank you for joining us.
who has been better in this run, Jalen or Tatum so far?
Yeah. And if you say Derek White, we'll allow that as well.
I think we should flip Tatum and Ant.
But I just read you the stats. More points, better percentages for Ant. Playing
Listen,
tougher opponents.
We know that this list isn't right,
What
but
would the
it's
reasoning
also
be?
not wrong.
You're right. You're right. You got to live with it.
It's not wrong,
Kale?
but there's no way this is correct. But this,
I need Win to tell me if it's insane to have Kyrie at 2.
this is
who
when
was
people are
the
like,
non-insane.
this is when
person?
people are like, you're going to tell me that Tyrese Halliburton is in top 10? And you're like, okay, who moves out?
Well,
and
he
you're
was
like,
eliminated by.
none of those top 10.
All
They're
right,
great
we got to
players.
move. We got to move. We're leaving it. We're locking it. We're moving
The
on.
argument
like
for
a
that
move.
person is he was eliminated by the playoffs. Sorry so much.
And here comes Win. If we're doing recency bias, I'm actually okay with Kyrie.
That's the whole point, Win. That's the whole point, Win.
We did
Recency
it.
bias,
We'll tweet that out.
recency
You can
bias.
tell us again why we were wrong. For now,
Yeah.
we have an ad read to get to.
I can't believe we prefaced
Defending
it with that.
champs
You still
over here.
clowned us. And then when you just restated what we already said, you said we were right. That is some peak off the pod behavior.
I love it. I love it.
That was some
Toyota's the
Toyota
official
driving.
vehicle of DNVR.
Woo.
And
Meep.
trucks have always been a part of Toyota's DNA. For generations, they've built durable legends destined for greatness and perfect for Colorado. Whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the way to the world, there's a Toyota truck that's just right for you, like the all-new 2024 Tacoma. And the return of the iconic 2024 Land Cruiser coming this spring.
Dude, I can't wait. I'm going to buy 4.
I'm not,
okay.
but I sure wish I could.
That's amazing.
If I could buy 4, I would. It's a little out of my
Dude,
price
like,
range.
imagine setting up a chariot behind 3 or 4 of those bad boys, like
Oh yeah,
Furiosa?
I see where you're going with it. Oh,
you know what I'm talking about? Maybe a Land Cruiser
like
chariot?
a chariot of 3, dude. You're a
Just the
genius.
fellas cruising.
Through the wasteland?
Furiosa, man.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
it's seeped in. I
What
love
a
it.
treat. All jokes aside, if you live in Colorado, you might actually need all-wheel drive. You might actually need that truck bed. It's not just you're not just a show off. You might be a blue collar fella or lady,
Oh,
you know?
okay, all
and you
right.
might need a Toyota. So visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. Auto Nation Toyota Arapahoe in Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Please do remember that Toyota is a proud partner of the Denver Nuggets and the official vehicle of DNVR.
Meep.
Nice.
Breck Brew is also the official craft beer
Glug, glug.
of DNVR.
Drink.
That's good. That's good. They have a new beer too. It's the new West Coast style IPA, the Ridge Runner. This is double dry hopped brew is inspired by the untamed beauty of Colorado's trails. Hopback infused with whole cone hops and a double dose of Citra lupulin powder that creates notes of bright citrus and pine. Gonna keep it real. Don't know what any of that means,
Doesn't matter, dude. Tastes good.
but I'm still excited to drink it.
Keep it real, bro.
One thing I love about Breck, they try to make a lot of different beers, new beers, different flavors, but they work really hard to stay committed to that core feeling that you all want when you crack open a cold one. Shout out Breck Brew. Check out the beer locator at breckbrew.com to find a brew near you. And I told you guys that I wouldn't do the Adam thing where I do an entire show without getting to the mailbag. But we are way behind. And that's my fault.
This is how this goes. Anytime we're like, oh man, what are we going to talk about today? And we're like, the fucking Nuggets. It's not that hard. And then you like get all these things, and then like halfway through, we're like, oh man, all that stuff we planned. We rented all those horses.
Also, clarity from Mr. Wind. Actually, a good list, but I'd flip Tatum and Ant.
Okay, great. Okay.
He gave us more insights. Ant had three bad games against Denver, 3 this series, so I get it.
He gave us a failing grade until we explained one thing, and now we're passing with flying colors.
You know what that is? That's why it's like having a conversation on a podcast. Very easy. Expressing the same opinions in a tweet. Might as well jump off the roof.
Yeah.
Don't even bother.
So true.
Don't even bother.
No context, no rules.
Yep.
All gas, no brakes.
All right. Okay, let's get to the mailbox.
The mailbox.
Mailbag.
Could the Nuggets have really beaten this Mavs team in 5 or 6 games? If they had won Game 7, is this Mavs team special?
They're fine.
Kyrie saves his legacy with a ring against Boston? The second part I think is really interesting. Kyrie was an elite second option, won that title in Cleveland, was such a devastating option as a second scoring option, looked amazing.
Dude.
I think we all know how the rest of his career went till this year.
Yeah.
And it was like Kyrie was not going to be remembered for that stuff, potentially. And right now, it's all about basketball with Kyrie. And he's really, really good at it. Really good at it.
He's number 2 in the playoffs, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Kyrie has gone from homewrecker to the hot lady that everybody wants. He just ruined teams one after the next, and now somehow is an inextricable part of a magical run that the Mavs are on, and a second fiddle to Luka in a way that last year seemed preposterous. It was like these two don't work together at all.
Yeah.
Somehow getting 2 backup 5 made those two work together perfectly. I don't understand it, but yeah, dude, Kyrie has everything to gain from this.
He's restored his legacy. That Cavs legacy that once was has completely been brought back. And we took like a 5-year hiatus of him being, having crazy opinions. And then really being a team wrecker, team after team after team. And to think that the Mavs went from that offseason 2 years ago where they lose Brunson for nothing, and this is their fallback plan, and they seem so desperate to salvaging everything is crazy. On the Mavs Nuggets part of the question, that's the trickier one. But yeah, I believe Gafford and Lively would have just been eaten alive in this series. MPJ would have just done whatever he want.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I feel much better about that matchup.
Oh my God.
But there is a part of me that does wonder about with Jamal in the state that he was in.
Totally, man.
How inevitable was some of this
But
eventually.
listen to this. Like, Jamal absolutely showed up in Game 7. He scored 35 points. He and Jokic tired out down the stretch.
Sure.
But here's the thing. If you look at, Denver matches up against the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, Aaron Gordon can check Luka. KCP can check Kyrie. Jokic can devour and feast upon Lively or Gafford, whoever you want, like Mars eating his children. And it would just be like they would have the right combination of things to have happen to get over on the Mavs like pretty easily. I think it would be probably a 6 or 7 game series, because I'm not trying to discount how incredible Luka is. Even if you have somebody that can check him, like, he's still going to get over. But we saw earlier, it was before the trade and after the trade, that's when the game that Kyrie had that ridiculous shot to beat the Nuggets. But the Nuggets were in control in that game. Like, they match up against the Mavs in a way that, like, doesn't allow their strong suit to just run wild like it does against the Minnesota.
They would have a much, much harder time making Jokic's life hell, and you can start there.
But there is the great unknown is fatigue at the end of games in these clutch situations where the Mavs have looked so good, the Wolves have not, and the Nuggets obviously didn't always look the sharpest.
Just didn't have that juice. Didn't have that juice. Yeah. But there's a version of this where I say, yes, they matched up much better with the Mavs for sure. Much better.
100%.
even if they wouldn't have won at the state they were in, that's up for debate.
They would have.
What else do we got, Kale? What else do we got?
Oh, tools.
Google search tools settings. Lucas Navarrete. I'm sorry if I said that wrong, brother. I don't think I've ever said your name out loud. Is it realistic to expect a significant improvement on offense from Watson next season? Remember, we kind of expected Brown to take a leap, and it didn't quite happen. What are your thoughts, Andre, on Peyton Watson being a much more trusted and featured option, not just getting minutes, but maybe getting a role in the offense next year?
We are to hope for some improvements with improvement in sports. You never know. It's never linear when you take that jump. So we'll see, but that is the hope. I think with where P-Watt is in his career and kind of that natural progression you expect, this I would compare him more so than a Christian Brown who was a senior and came in much 4 years older basically than P-Watt. Think of him more as like Jalen Williams in college. That third year is when he broke out at Santa Barbara. Similar, bigger wing, right, with a little handling, hypothetical shot, that kind of stuff. You're hoping he can take that kind of Jalen Williams type leap going from that year 21 to year 22 season, and probably compares less so to a Christian Brown, 4-year college player, first year as a rookie in the NBA, role expanded a little more off the bench and not quite finding his game that way.
And then I think, too, Eric, some of it is, in some ways, this is a Malone conversation. Not just playing consistently, but again, like being empowered to do and try things throughout the year that maybe don't look like Nuggets basketball. But then you get to a playoff setting and there's a confidence and a freedom to some of these guys to make plays that maybe it felt like Denver's guys didn't have this year. Like things almost narrowed down too much.
Right.
But that's all easy to say in hindsight. But I think it's worth saying into a microphone. It's worth
But the thing is that Christian Brown did get a lot of playing time in the postseason and was trusted. Justin Holiday got a lot of time. You can look at him as, okay, that's not a developing guy. Peyton Watson got time, but he kind of played himself off the court to the point where you're like, I don't know, maybe you're just not ready for this. I mean, the idea being that, like, if we would have played them more in the regular season, they would have been ready for the playoffs. But did you feel like they didn't play in the regular season? I mean, like, I
do think Peyton got opportunity. I do think Peyton
they
got
both, like, they both did. They both got opportunity.
I do think there is maybe something to, maybe it's more of a Reggie Jackson thing, to be honest.
That's the thing, is it like,
because Reggie just takes shots. Reggie just takes shots.
That's the thing, is that, like, we had, what the issue probably was that, I mean, it was that coming into the season, we were like, we want to back up 1 and we want to back up 5. And we had Reggie Jackson, and it's like, all right, Reggie Jackson is not good enough to carry you. He's also not, like, bad enough that you want to turn to an outright rookie. Like, Jalen Pickett's not a guy in his first year in the league that you're like, okay, we're going to ramp you up to the point where you're going to be our, no doubt, backup 1 going into the playoffs. It's just never going to happen. There's not a scenario where that takes place. I just hate that, again, like, lost all confidence in the bench by Game 7.
I know.
It's like, because they got, I mean, like, make no mistake, the bench got fucking destroyed in a bunch of those games. Like, they put doubt in Malone's mind to the point where he's like, sure, I've seen this before. Like, I don't even want to mess around with it. Like, I've watched the bench come in, score no points, and also not be effective defensively. And it's just an absolute windfall for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, like, what do you do? I do think my biggest large-scale critique of the coaching staff over the years is just their inability to find a way to get the best out of the non-Jokic guys off the bench. They never have.
100%.
They never have. And
that's where this question is kind of mostly about P-Watt, but there is a second part of it where it's like, yeah, P-Watt needs to make improvements on the offensive side of the ball, no doubt. He also needs to be tried in different lineups that can maybe bring out some of the offensive skills more so. And, he needs to be adapted and used his best way. And I think falling that AG model might really be the solution, you know?
I do think with a guy that young, every year he gets under his belt,
Oh, it's
the game
huge.
slows
It's
down.
huge, man.
It's a little easier. It's a little easier to start taking liberties and feeling more confident.
Totally.
And, you know, like by the end of the year, he was feeling good about that mid-range jumper or short mid-range jumper
Right.
that at the beginning he wasn't taking. Like he will get better. Will it be a big leap? I don't know, but he will get better.
I hope so. I think he's a big key in extending this window for the Nuggets. I really think he is a massive part of this core going forward. So you got to kind of figure out how do you maximize P-Watt one way or another in my mind.
And I also like this point from Harrison. Then we're going to get to a break real quick. The 4 bench 1 starter lineups probably have to stop. And that'll help the
100%.
bench.
But I mean, here's the
100%.
thing: is that year before we're complaining very vociferously about the hockey change. We don't like the hockey change. We like the stagger. It's all about the stagger. It's like we were
We're saying
comfortable.
stagger more people.
We were comfortable. Well, either way, like we were comfortable with this until it fell apart in the end, and now it's like, what the hell were they doing? Like the chat is like, fire Malone, fire Malone. I couldn't possibly disagree anymore. Like to me, this is an insane idea that you would uproot.
Well, I do think there's also a thing that goes like once after a loss like that, if you sit and discuss like one person for too long, it can be interpreted as they get all the blame. When
Totally.
It's like all of these factors, we've got a nice little.
Dude, we have the Nuggets have a really incredible culture. They've got things that you can build upon. They should, but they were the reigning champions until 2 weeks ago. It's not to say that there's not improvements, but there's like conversation that's like, well, we got to tear it all up. It's like, bro, calm down.
But also, I just think it's also there's plenty of blame to go around.
Oh,
so
for sure.
as you start to talk about one person, it might sound like there's a little bit on Jamal, it's a little bit on Malone, it's a little bit on Porter,
It's a
little
lot
bit
on Jamal.
a lot of it. Yeah, you're right. My point being, it's not just one person.
No,
or one
of
thing.
course not.
All right, I got to get to a break, fellas. Blink if you haven't purchased Father's Day gift yet. Blink.
My dad died recently.
Oh, that's right.
So
I feel like
hold on. Didn't make the purchase yet.
Cool. Well, if your dad's still alive, today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming. Maybe your pops has had a bush since the 70s, and that's okay. Our friends at Manscaped have crafted the total package
Dude,
for
also,
his special
why do you
day.
know that?
Whether it's for the boys downstairs, his beard, or even the best pair of underwear out there, Manscaped has his bases covered.
Oh man.
I'm not going to read the other part they put there. Head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code Nuggets20. Trust Manscaped. Not reading that, Manscaped. Not reading that. Get
knows better
20%
than
off
that.
plus free shipping with code Nuggets20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use the code Nuggets20. Never forget where you came from, fellas, if you know what I mean. Happy Father's Day.
Oh man,
From Manscaped.
I love Manscaped, but I don't
go.
love thinking about my father's genitals. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
That's just
I don't
you, bro.
love it. Is that me? Is this unique to me?
That's unique to you, Eric. You're
If you-
weird.
If you want a different kind of gift you could get your father, you do not have to talk about genitals at all.
Hell yeah.
You could get him a ticket to an event or sporting event, a
Hell yeah,
comedy
dude.
event, a concert. You could get it all for the best prices at the last second
Hell yeah.
with Game Time. And I love Game Time because that last little dynamic we just described, like, not everything is a big plan. Not everything is decided months out, especially when you live in a cool city like Denver. You got a lot of options. But sometimes you get a little impulsive.
Yeah, dude.
Just want to go with the wind. You know what I mean? And the wind's
If I-
taking you to Ball Arena.
If you're looking at Brendan Vogt and you're like, that's a guy that has his entire life planned out.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Every appointment, every social engagement, it's all documented. It's on a calendar.
Look, how can
You're
we make
wrong,
this
dude.
guy
That's
live
not
more
true. You
casually,
have mischaracterized Brendan Vogt entirely.
Yeah, it's-
he loved flying by the seat of his
You might
pants
be surprised.
or his shorts.
I'm a bit of a go with the flow kind of guy. And that's where Game Time comes in handy
So true.
because you can take the guesswork out of buying any kind of tickets, including NBA Finals tickets, with Game
Whoa.
Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We are so over. I can tell Kale is miserable. Are there any shows, though, that we're bumping up against?
No.
All right, give me 3 more mailbag questions.
Three
Let's
more,
go.
Oh, yeah, right.
3 more. We can do 3 more.
Sorry, Kel. We know
folks.
you were
Come
looking
on.
for an hour today. We started to push it to an
Yeah.
hour.
I
10.
can't even believe it went that long.
Listen, we got caught up in the list.
We did.
Mile high memories. Do you think Jamal Murray is too inconsistent to carry this team back to another finals? I like this caveat here. Be honest. So no lying, Eric.
Okay. This is a tough question. In his nature, he has been incredibly inconsistent, but a lot of it has been body issues. His legs hurt. Something's torn. His play is good enough to carry the Denver Nuggets. You don't know because he gets injured in some way every year. Some people say that it has to do with his conditioning. I tend to agree with this point of view. It seems as though every year we expect Jamal Murray to come in and set the world on holy fire and that it's going to be the year of Jamal. And he just comes in sputtering and you're like, all right, he's going to work himself into shape, which you hate, but like is a path that a lot of NBA players take. Jamal Murray feels to me like he has to decide that he wants to be as good as he is. And he has everything. The thing is that like his like kind of lackluster work ethic was rewarded in spades the year prior, and human beings never change until they're challenged or uncomfortable. And he, I would assume, is going to have a very uncomfortable offseason, and it's going to hopefully spur change in him. But also the one thing that's good about this is that he's going to play for Team Canada. So like, I actually love that. Like, it's a reason for him to get in shape, stay engaged, come into camp, like, ready to go. He just has to decide he wants to do it. He's totally good enough.
What say you, Dre?
Yeah, I think I do trust Jamal. The inconsistencies are frustrating. Up to this point, though, pretty consistent when it mattered most in the postseason. If you look at his career stats, they're actually very on point, very consistent in some way. So during the regular season, even he's shown you he can replicate that same standard, which, you know, it's like 20-7. Is it the greatest? No. Is it the worst? Far from it. But what you need is that playoff Jamal needs to return. That's the standard you've expected at that time of year. And up until this point, this one postseason, I could trust and believe that was there. I will trust and believe that it will be back next year. I will wait for him to prove me wrong before I stop trusting.
I want to know what notorious timeline Jamal flamer Brendan Vogt has to say.
Oh,
about
that's
this.
right. Yeah. No, listen, I think it's a fair
Brandon Vogt.
It's a fair question because the inconsistency
Totally.
is probably the key word.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing, again, some of this was playoffs or injuries.
Oh, boy.
Some of
Here
this
he
was
comes
just poor
tempering
performance.
it. All right.
But no, I mean, the thing about being a guy who, well, you can just rely on me, when it matters, is like, that's true. And that's a great reputation up until it isn't. Like, it's all fragile. It's all precarious. And one playoff run like this. And now I think some of the benefit of the doubt is worn off. So the way I would frame it is, can he do it again? Absolutely. But the onus is now on.
I know.
Like a year ago, it seemed like we could never question this guy again.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think the onus is back on Jamal again to go show us and to go finish this conversation.
You know what it is? It's like your buddy that always brags about how he arrives at the airport just 10 minutes before his flight and always makes it. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not getting there early. I whatever."
Yeah, Raph,
and then
he's a real-
and then he missed his flight. And now
real
you're like,
piece of work.
"Oh, now you can't be that guy anymore. Now you can't be the cool guy like, hey, I'm just coming in late. No problem. You guys are silly for arriving early.
Right.
You missed your flight. That's over. Now you're the fool. Like, now you gotta who are you? Who are you? Jamal Murray, who are you?
The book is back open. But he still gets to write that next chapter, you know what I'm
But
saying?
what a divine talent he possesses.
Oh,
Can
of
I
course.
ask you a multiple question answer?
Yeah, of course.
Did they
the-
need playoff Jamal this year, or
No.
would they have been fine with regular season Jamal?
Yeah, to be honest, just
You mean in the playoffs?
That would have done it,
competent
right?
Jamal, I
Right.
think would have helped a lot.
Well, it was
The
it was-
standard dipped that much, though. I think.
Well, what
is
it
fair to
was,
say.
it was just quickness Jamal, like Jamal getting consumed by Anthony Edwards and just eliminated by Nickeil Alexander-Walker and eclipsed by Jaden McDaniels. It's like, bro, like the games that they lost were like he couldn't get a shot off. He was getting his shit blocked. Dude, it was like, oh, this is bad, man. This is really bad. And that has nothing to do with shot making. But he was missing his shots too. But he was just like, he didn't have his shake. He didn't have his wiggle, man.
Yeah. And again, it's not just a Jamal thing, but since that's the question, there is a little bit of, you watch some of the other number 2 options at this postseason.
Yeah. Kyrie Irving, number 2 in the playoffs.
Oh, okay, right. But again, to be clear, all you have to do is go back 1 year.
Jaylen Brown.
And Murray did that to the nth degree.
Yeah, what the hell? The number 2 options are 2 and 3 in the playoffs currently. Kyrie and Jaylen Brown have been soaring to the level of expectation and beyond. So if we had that.
But I think the best part is Jamal gets to answer this question. Was it just injury? Was it inconsistency? Is there a corner for him to turn as a professional? And he gets to sort of dictate that now, so it's up to him. All right, let's do one more and get out of here.
We could have done a question per segment. We would have covered this.
I know. I'm the worst.
Eric and I doing you no favors either.
My whole pre-show meeting was about how I was going to get to all the questions.
Pre-show meeting.
That was me talking to Trey. You were in the other room. It was like a 10-minute conversation. Big Willie, would you attach a first-round pick in a trade to get off of Zeke Najee's contract?
You're
going to have to attach something to get off of Zeke Najee's contract. That's one.
I will tell you, like, if you're going to do that, now is the time. You are flush with draft picks. Like, they have all these young guys that they don't know what to do with. They only have so many roster spots. They have Hunter Tyson. They have Julian Strother. They have Jalen Pickett. They have Colin Gillespie if they want him. They have all of these guys that you're like, Peyton Watson, Christian Brown. Like, they have a whole entire team of young guys that are on the same timeline.
And a second rounder this year. The last thing the Nuggets need to do this year is draft another guy. Like, they don't need any more guys unless it's a guy that actually is drafted for need, which you never love to do. They do
have guys on contract. You're right. It's kind of
they have so many fucking guys, man. So they have to, like, if you're gonna do that, now is the time to do that. When you are in the thick of it with the development of these guys, which Calvin Booth believes in very strongly. If you really believe in it, like, that's how you show.
It's also the 28th pick in what's said to be the weakest draft in at least the last 5 years, right? So nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but like, it's the weakest draft in 5 years or whatever. But like, that means there's going to be a lot of role players that come out of it, not stars. And role players are what the Denver Nuggets need.
Literally need.
I do think there are levels to attaching assets to dump something, and I do think if you get to a first, you're hopeful you get something back.
Yep.
I don't know if you're going to feel like it's a slam dunk trade, but I wouldn't attach well, maybe you have to. But once you get up to a first, as opposed to multiple seconds or a younger player or other people, like, it just feels like, well, you got to be getting like a backup center.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, could it be where you get a veteran?
Yeah.
Can you get a Daniel Gafford?
Yeah.
Can you get a guy like that you trade a first round pick, you move off Zeke Naji, but you actually get a player that is usable back. Like, that's the thing about these conversations, these off-season conversations, that people get really siloed in their view of certain things. You have to really take an all-encompassing view. Like, how does it improve the Denver Nuggets? Like, if you're just saying, like, wow, like, Zeke Naji lost a ton of value, that's a total L if you have to trade a first-round pick. But at the end of the day, it's like, this is the same conversation when people were talking about how Paul Millsap was making too much money for the Denver Nuggets. And it's like, in a vacuum, yes, but not in the context of the Denver Nuggets.
That signing was very important to them.
All of these things make sense in the larger view. Like, losing a first-round pick to get off Zeke Naji, it's like, no, that sounds horrible. That's a total L, except for the Denver Nuggets are flush with young players. They need a specific spot filled. So you do it. Like, if the deal is there, and you don't look back.
Zeke or Reggie, look, the thing is, if you re-sign KCP and you need to get under that second apron to give you back some freedom of movement, then yeah, it probably is worth it to move Zeke or Reggie or both. And the way you do that is by attaching a first-round pick. Now, the logic in giving Zeke that contract was you were going to be in the tax anyways, and having contracts that are movable is actually an advantage because that's the only way you'll get a contract back, right?
And you can't just sign guys off the street at that point.
So it would be an L to just be like, shit, okay, this contract would have been valuable this way, but actually we just need to get off it, get under the second apron. But look, signing KCP and being under the second apron, huge dub.
Yeah, that'd be a
and
huge
it is
dub.
a deep draft. You have a late second, and this is such a deep draft. I think you'll find a quality undrafted guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a guy who most years we would have been happy they drafted 45th
Deep
overall.
draft, you
know?
say? Do you mean like in terms of those kinds of players?
In terms of
As
guys I
opposed
can
to
find
the-
who
Yeah,
are
there's not a lot of
rotational
peaks, but there's-
seventh
Sure.
man, eighth man. In a playoff rotation, though, that guy's super valuable.
Telling
That
you.
guy might get
Yeah.
$20 million a year in
Yeah.
4 years.
This is where
you
role
know?
players come from.
I do just
Yeah.
think if you get it first, you're hopeful you're getting something back and not just tossing it
And
away.
you're
Well,
missing-
that's just it. If it's just a toss away, then that's stupid.
And they've got this perfect 5-man youth lineup, right? You're missing the backup big. Zeke was supposed to be the backup big. This could be your other roll of a dice. But you know, the more I look at those 5, really your backup big should probably be P-Watt. P-Watt
well,
should
don't
be
forget
the
that
AG role as
Vlatko will
much as
also be
anything.
here. Vlatko will be here. He is your breaking case of emergency backup 5. Get a true backup 5. Like, I don't know, get a
And
like
the minimum contracts will be there, and the best guys for a minimum contract will be a backup 5 and a backup point guard.
Oh, you did us so dirty. What was it? Our French backup, what was his name? That we just got rid of. Kamagate, you did us dirty.
Ah,
you were
damn
supposed
you,
to be the one,
Kamagate.
man.
You
You were
had the hope.
supposed to be the one.
Meanwhile, the Nuggets
You're
are
the
like, I
hope.
don't know if he's the one, by the way. All right, let's get to those super chats and get out of here because Kale wants to murder me with a knife.
Wow.
A butter knife,
Wow.
actually.
Yeah, dude, we're gonna have to pay
It's long
Kale
on lots
overtime.
of-
He's
I just can't wait for you to have the same conversation I get to have with our lovely media people.
About how they're like, you can't keep doing this. And you can just be like, Vogt's fault. I told him explicitly it was Vogt's fault. Okay.
well,
Euro
this will be the
Chuck
part that
Norris.
will just be on the website.
Mavs fan here, as mentioned earlier, Luka asked for trades as well, and he told them to pull the
Yep.
trigger on the Kyrie trade. That's a
Yep.
good point. Euro Chuck Norris. Also, hope you're enjoying the run,
Chuck
brother.
Norris, yeah.
I bet he is.
I bet he is. I bet
If I had to-
looks pretty dope from the outside.
If I had to venture a guess, I'd say, yeah, he's enjoying it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cedric Exquisite. Hashtag Kyrie for Finals MVP. It would upset Celtics fans so much.
Oh, it'd be the
Give the best handles man his respect. Andre, we need you here more. Please, Laking Ball.
Dude, this
stay.
again, this is like saying
Thank you, Sutter.
so and such should be in the top 5. There's 5 of us on this podcast. Who are you pushing out?
That's right. Oh, that's true.
Tough.
I volunteer
Adam?
myself.
I agree.
I volunteer myself. Jason Cap, can we rank the best end of bench blowout victory cigars guys in Nuggets history? Showing love to my guy Ryan Bowen, the original Thomas Welsh.
Oh,
Here's what I think, Jason.
wow.
Let's table
Ish
that
Smith, dude. Ish Smith, number 1 cigar guy.
because it might be a great bet 365.
Dude, that's an
for
amazing
later in the
top
offseason.
5.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's way better than the last 2 you guys
The
have
last
done.
one, the last one we did, I don't remember when it was
It was
fucking
names.
terrible.
Yeah, baller names. It was.
Oh, no, it was today, and it was awful.
Yeah, no, that one was better. That one was better. Yeah.
Chat, thank you so much for hanging with us.
Oh, my gosh.
We went long. It's the offseason show.
Bless you, Toyota. Chat.
The boss isn't here. But actually, these guys are still my
Dude,
boss.
this is, yeah, I'm
They're
totally
both
about
both of you. Yeah.
Here's the thing, like, the off season is when you get to know us. You know what I mean?
Bang, bang,
You get to understand what makes us tick, our quirks, our personality, and
It's mostly just Furiosa and Dune 2.
yeah, a lot of Furious, a lot of Dune too.
Hell yeah.
That's right. So stay tuned.
Gang, thank you so
Dang.
much. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back for the rest of the week. Adam and Harrison.
Crazy.
Adam will not be here. Harrison,
Soft.
touch and go.
Soft.
But we'll be bringing in some guests, and maybe we can
Soft.
get Superstar Dev to come hang out
Soft.
with us as
Oh,
well.
incredible.
Dre, thanks for kicking it, man.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Dude, I can't, look at how eager Dre is to get these fruit snacks.
Yeah,
Can't wait
look at that. I'm
the
getting
10
some
seconds
fruit
before we
snacks
go
now.
off screen.
Thought it'd make for a fun bit.
Y'all silly like the mayor.